2020 Supply Chain Year in Review. With the end of 2020 near, many are celebrating an end to one of the most challenging and trying years for supply chain managers worldwide in recent history. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has put immense pressure on many supply chains throughout the world, with drastic shifts in consumer demand, disruptions within the transportation industry, factory and warehouse closures, and the ever-present risk of infection. Let's take a look at some of the major challenges that supply chain managers have had to face in 2020. Global pandemic. The coronavirus pandemic hit supply chain firms with little warning in the early spring of 2020. Firms quickly faced major factory disruptions, particularly in China, as the pandemic struck many Chinese firms well before majorly spreading within the United States and to other Mexican factories. Following the initial supplier disruption, widespread lockdowns were put into effect, which drastically altered the U.S. economy, with many industries in particular such as the entertainment, restaurant, travel, airlines, and others heavily hit due to a lack of demand. The U.S. economy in general had an awful second quarter. As a result, many transportation providers reduced their services in an effort to reduce cost, which dropped freight rates across many modes. For example, trucking rates were at all-time lows mid-second quarter of 2020. Working from home. With the widespread safety measures to reduce the spread of COVID-19, many businesses worked hard to implement pandemic safety protocols including better PPE, sanitation practices, social distancing, and most importantly, working from home options for many employees. A larger number of firms than ever before have switched staff when possible to working from home. Companies have rapidly equipped employees with computers and software tools such as Zoom and Asana to remain as productive as possible while at home. Developing new procedures. What's worked in years past has in many cases been thrown out the door in 2020. Supply chains have had to be leaner and quicker to adapt than ever before. The shift in businesses to an e-commerce model also pushes firms to shift their strategies as more parcel, warehousing, and fulfillment capacity is needed. The huge rise in e-commerce demand also means that many companies that haven't relied heavily on their websites and online stores have had to quickly either make an online store from scratch or refine their websites to better let consumers buy their products and services online. Interestingly enough, e-commerce demand actually rose from 2019 levels through the 2020 holiday season. Rise in transportation prices. Following the drop-off in transportation rates mid-second quarter 2020, consumer demand sprang back across many industries quicker than anyone could have predicted. This resulted in a shortage of transportation capacity across many modes of transportation, including full truckload, intermodal, drayage, ocean shipping, and air freight. Being a simple supply and demand market economy, transportation rates were driven up at times to more than double of what they were previously, with the rapid rise in demand and decrease in supply. This was much to the dismay of many supply chain managers who are working hard to simply keep their firms operating. Freight rates have continued to stay very high throughout late summer, fall, and now the winter months, with many predicting that there will be a prolonged period of elevated transportation rates well into 2021. This is mainly due to consumer demand remaining high, continued disruptions, and capacity constraints, along with the heavy focus of many retailers on increasing their current inventory levels. A search for capacity. With the increase in freight rates and reduced capacity, retailers and shippers across the country have been quickly trying to increase their base of capacity, often working with new carriers, new logistics providers, and adding different transportation modes into their logistics plan. Supply chain digitalization. As firms have switched to work from home and found themselves in need of more transportation capacity, they have also turned to digitalization as a solution. Many digital freight companies have reported a higher than ever increase in demand throughout the year as companies look for alternative solutions. Going into 2021, more firms than ever before will have increased their use of supply chain technology, including data analytics and the use of digital freight capacity providers. This will be a trend that sticks going forward. Vaccine logistics. Early December brought great news that several COVID-19 vaccines will be quickly approved and immediately distributed across the United States. While it will take many months for the entirety of the U.S. population to be vaccinated, the FDA approval and subsequent first vaccinations are a welcome sight. Supply chain firms globally are being mobilized to help distribute the vaccines, with cargo and passenger airliners being heavily utilized to quickly ship doses long distances. Trucking providers, cold chain firms, and cold chain warehouse providers, along with major network firms like USPS, FedEx, DHL, and UPS, are being leaned on heavily to provide vaccine logistics. One of the major challenges of the vaccine distribution plan is the cold temperature that's required for many of the vaccines. The Pfizer vaccine in particular requires temperatures much lower than traditional cold chain facilities normally use or are capable of. This means that this vaccine will mostly be given at larger healthcare facilities, which have the extremely cold storage systems needed. The Moderna vaccine, however, requires a more normal cold chain temperature range, which facilitates its distribution to more rural areas. 2020 is a year to celebrate ending, with over 300,000 COVID deaths in the United States alone. Supply chain providers across the world all hope that 2021 will bring a slow return to normalcy as the widespread vaccination starts. For supply chain managers, 2020 will be remembered as one of the most challenging years in recent history. More videos are coming along from Zmodal very soon. Subscribe and like for the latest in supply chain news, tips, and industry knowledge.